What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Latrina, and I am back again today with another tarot spread read. Starting off in our first row, we do get the Eight of Pentacles, which it's the card of it's the card of work. It depicts an image of an individual working upon something, working on something. This individual has decided that they need to take action on something, that they need to work upon something and take some action. Something has been seen clear, and it says you want a thing long enough and then you don't. So something has been seen clear about something that somebody maybe did work upon, and maybe there may be a message involving this work, or there may be a message coming through about something that was seen clear. And we did get that message in the last read, but it did come out in the reverse. And this time it comes out in the upright. Seen clear in the upright. Maybe, somebody had worked upon something for a long time, and so much long that they actually stopped wanting it. And we get the Magician coming out in that second row, which does, to me, speak of someone trying to magically craft a situation. Maybe they want to put a touch of magic to a situation. Because we do next get what is all on my card? Hanged Man, which came out again today. So it looks like maybe someone got themselves caught up from somebody practicing magic, from some type of manipulation even, because that magician, he can depict a level of manipulation, as well as spell casting for sure. And that looks like it says solitude is full of God. And then we got that message out there, which is kind of not very appropriate to the first two cards. I mean, because we see somebody working on something, for sure. And trying to actually bring something together out of a magic, book, or out of some type of craft, spell, to bring it to terms properly. Maybe they were using spells to try to, accomplish whatever goals that they were working upon. Maybe it was because of a message that they did get, that made them feel like they was caught up, the Hanged Man. This magician probably got himself caught up from practicing these spells and this magic work that he does this for an occupation, because that Eight of Pentacles comes out in the very first row. And whatever that was done as an occupation, maybe somebody was hired to do some work. Whenever you see that working card, somebody's getting paid for that skill or that craft that they are actually involved in. He's got a lot of depictions of work behind him that he's already completed. Because we next get the Two of Swords coming out, and that just shows me that somebody was blind to something. And it reminds me of that old, Christian hymn, where you sing about being blind and now you can see. And that's exactly what this is depicting here. That maybe somebody now can see something that they were once blind to, with this two of sword coming out in that third row. They were blind to, this magic getting them caught up in a snare trap, because that hangman is definitely being trapped, in some sort of a snare. Intentional design, it has something to do with someone's intelligence, because usually whenever you can snare trap something, an animal, that deals with your intelligence level by you being on the higher, the totem pole. You know what I mean? That speaks of your intelligence. If someone can get you caught up in a snare trap, probably, right, blind to the situation. Something's been seen clear, because it's the very key message of this read. It comes out right in that first row. And then we get this three of sword in the reverse, also in that second row. So we go from the two of sword to the three of sword. And then we get the message of the wolf changes his hair, but not his skin. Defibrillator is one of the messages also on that wolf card. And usually a defibrillator is trying to bring somebody back to life. Somebody has no signs of life and they're trying to be brought back to life. Maybe that was what this magician is working on with these spells. He's trying to work on bringing something back to life. And maybe it was something that he didn't see at first. This magician was blind to something that he can now see clear. But this magician has not changed his hair. He did change his hair. He didn't change his skin. That's what he cannot change, is that skin. Because in our next row of cards, we do get the Hermit in the reverse coming out, along with the Empress. And then we get the CPR card, Something has to be, someone's trying to bring something back to life. Probably after, seeing some things clear and maybe doing even some self-reflection, or maybe even after being, maybe interrogated, because that Hermit, usually he speaks of someone that's looking into something. And if it's not a self-search or study, then, it may be upon the external realm. Oh, bless me, excuse me. So yeah, he may be, something was discovered about this Empress, which is actually some people were blind to, or someone was blind to something about this Empress that they now have actually uncovered. Or maybe they can't crack the code on the Empress, because that hermit is in the reverse. So he wasn't able to shed light upon this Empress. Maybe, someone was looking into this Empress, for some illegal activities. Because whatever they weren't able to see at first, it did, bring them into a caught up mode now. I was going to say the three of swords, but to go from the two of swords, which is blind, then to the three of swords, which is heartbroken. So whatever that they were actually blind and not able to see at one point, it's actually got them kind of heartbroken at this point, because they weren't able to see anything clear about this Empress. And then we get the Death card coming out in that fourth row, along with the Queen of Wands in the reverse. Whoa, that's kind of, oh, and then we get the Signs of Life card, and then we get the Unknown card. And with that Signs of Life, it says everything ancient is to be respected. So it looks like this Queen of Wands in the reverse has brought a death upon herself. And it could be literal, or it may be just figuratively a death to some aspect, probably of, her spell work, working on this spell work because of some things that weren't able to be seen. Or maybe, trying to use spell work because people, to keep people blind to some situation regarding this Empress that no one could see clear about. No one, it was unknown. That card kind of confirms that even what was also unknown, coming is this death to this Queen of Wands in the reverse. This is a part of the unknown, because they did come out in the same row. Because they did not respect something that was ancient. They disrespected the code, and the hierarchy. And it, now they have no signs of life. And I don't know if this is literal or if this is just figuratively speaking about these signs of life. Because see, we do get this Death card coming out right on top of the Queen of Wands. And even we also get the, signs of life. This Queen of Wands, she did not respect something that was ancient, And it may be, like I said, hierarchies. You know what I mean? Like when you got totem poles. And if you're, walking upon this green earth, that man is at the top of the food chain, and even, probably intelligence. At this point, though, now there's AI that has taken over that spectrum of intelligence completely wipes us out of that intelligence factor. So, now whatever's ancient, that means something that is sacred and something that is holy and something that is forbidden. I know that a lot of people, they raid those temples and those pyramids that be over there, in Egypt and certain other places, and they actually raid them things thinking, that they can just go do exactly and walk upon these, walk all over these sacred sites. And I'm believing that there are individuals that walk this earth that are just as holy and just as sacred and untouchable and forbidden as a structure, just as timeless, even, So that's exactly what I'm seeing in this. Somebody brought a death to themselves for messing around with an ancient structure. And I'm not speaking of a building. I'm speaking of a human being. Somebody got themselves caught up so tough that it may have even ended their life. It gave them no vital signs, and use of a defibrillator, and also even needing CPR.